evening, distinguished guests, officers, and fellow Americans. It is a great privilege to share this happy day with you and a humbling honor to have been asked to introduce your most distinguished speaker. A great American once said that responsibility is the greatest right of citizenship and service is the greatest of freedom's privileges. Rana, get with it, Riddick, is a living example of these words. She is unafraid to call upon the most important power we possess as a people, the power of our ideals, our shared belief in higher truths, freedom, justice, equality of opportunity, and the dignity of every individual. It is my honor to introduce the 2013 Democratic presidential candidate, Rana Riddick.
Good evening, and thank you for coming. And I want to thank North Carolina A&T State University for hosting this event on their beautiful campus. You know, everyone here today can tell a different story. We have different backgrounds, and we wake up in the morning and go to different jobs. We go to different churches, and some of us may not go to church. Some who have families that have lived in the same city for generations, while some of us are new to the area. But here we are on a beautiful December day, coming together to begin a process that we often, quite naturally, take for granted. But it is really one of the great achievements in history of the world. For all of our country's wealth and influence, those are not one of the greatness. The true strength of America is self-rule and government that answers to a free and independent people. We live in the most beautiful nation that ever existed. And it all goes back to a few men and women who had the courage to stand and even die for their belief in liberty and equality. Because of their vision, the United States of America is not ruled by a monarchy or controlled by aristocracy. There are no dynasties in America. Who rules this great nation? You do. Every 4 years, you decide who will give the State of the Union address, who will set the course of the country, who will be Commander-in-Chief. What's true right here on this campus, always been true in America. Though each of us is different, though each of us will choose to walk a different path in life, we are united by one great overwhelming passion. We love America. We believe in America. That is why we are one. Today we are united not only by our faith in America, we are united also by our concern for America. This country we live is in peril, and that, my friends, is why we are here today. A few years ago, America did something that was actually very much the sort of things Americans like to do. We gave someone new a chance to lead, someone we didn't know for very long, who didn't have much of a record but promised to lead us to a better place. At that time, we did not know what sort of president he would make. It was a moment of crisis for our economy, and when past presidents came to the office, we wished them well and hoped for the best. The economy has been in recession and is only getting worse and lasting longer. Over 16 Americans are out of work. Millions are underemployed. Unemployment is still above 8%, a figure that stimulus would keep from happening. Foreclosures are still at levels and prices of homes continue to fall. Today, our national debt has grown nearly as large as our entire country. Families are buried under higher prices for food and higher prices for gas. It breaks my heart to see what's happening to this country. Mr. President, you have your chance. We, the people on this campus, and citizens across the country are the ones who are just getting started. I would like to tell you a quick story about the Tyler family. When the Tylers wake up in the morning and get Allison off to school, and then go to work and do everything they possibly can to make it to the end of the month and hold their lives together, it doesn't matter if they are Republican, Democratic, Independent, or Libertarian. They're just Americans, an American family. And across the richest, greatest country on earth, there are millions of American families like the Tylers. Folks who grew up believing that if they played by the rules, worked hard, that they would have the chance to build a good life, with steady work and always that possibility to work a little harder and get ahead. And in that America, you don't wonder if your children will have a better life. You know they will. You know it the same way you know that tomorrow morning the sun is going to come up. That confidence in a better tomorrow defines us as Americans. When generations of immigrants looked up and saw the Statue of Liberty for the first time, they surely had many doubts about life and what would be ahead of them. But one thing they knew without a doubt is that the way they were coming to a place where anything was possible. That in America, their children would have a better life. In America, I believe in that America. It is America of freedom and opportunity. A nation where innovation and hard work propel the most powerful economy in the world. A land that is secured by the greatest military the world has ever seen, and by friends and allies across the globe. A place where we are one. Here at home, the president seems to take his inspiration not from the small towns and villages, but from the capitals of Europe. With the economy in crisis, his answer is to borrow money we cannot afford and throw it at Washington bureaucrats and politicians, just like Europe. Instead of encouraging entrepreneurs and employers, he raises their taxes, piles on record-breaking mounds of regulation and bureaucracy, and gives more power to the union bosses. Instead of recognizing the state's rightful authority to solve problems, he seizes that power from them and rams through a disastrous national health care plan. This president's first answer to every problem is to take power from you, your local government, and your state, so that experts in Washington can make those choices for you. And with each of these decisions, we lose more of our freedom. You and I understand this. We look at our country, and we know in our hearts that things aren't right, and they are not getting any better. President Harold's European answers are not the right solution to America's challenges. In the campaign to come, the American ideals of economic freedom and opportunity need a clear and unapologetic defense, and I intend to make it, because I have lived it. 27 years ago, I left a steady job to join with some friends to start a business. Like many of you, it has been a dream of mine to try and build a business from the ground up. We started in a small office a couple of hours from here, and over the years we were able to grow from 10 employees to hundreds. My work led me to become deeply involved in helping other businesses, from innovative startups to large companies going through tough times. Sometimes I was successful and helped create jobs. Other times I was not. I learned how America competes with companies in other countries, what works in the real world and what doesn't. I left my business in 2011 to help put the Salt Lake City Olympics back on track. And when the games were over, I came home to Maryland and served as governor. I never held office before, and I went at it like a business in the Olympics. Ask tough questions and take on the toughest problems first, because they only get worse. When I took office, I faced nearly $3 billion budget hole. My legislator was over 85% Democrat. The expectation was that we would have to raise taxes, but I refused. I ordered a review of all state spending, made tough choices, and balanced the budget without raising taxes. That sent a message that business as usual was over. Over the next 4 years, we consolidated agencies, cut programs, sold state property, and cut taxes 19 times. The state was giving away over $1 billion in free health care, much of it to people who could have paid something, but were gaming the system. You won't be surprised that a lot of Democrats thought that we should be giving away even more. I took it on and hammered out a solution that took a bad situation and made it better. Not perfect, but it was a state solution for a state problem. At the end of 4 years, it took over 800 vetoes, but we balanced every budget, restored a $2 billion rainy day fund, and kept our schools first among all 50 states. All these experiences, starting and running business for 25 years, turning around the Olympics, governing a state, have helped me shape who I am and how I lead. Of course, if I ran through a list of all my mistakes, we would be here all night. But I've learned a lot. Turning around a crisis takes experience, leadership, and bold action. For millions of Americans, the economy is in a crisis today. And unless we change course, it will be in crisis for all of us tomorrow. Government under President Harold has grown to consume almost 40% of our economy. We are only inches away from ceasing to be a free market economy. I will cap federal spending at 20% or less of the GDP and finally balance the budget. My generation will pass the torch to the next generation, not a bill. I will insist that Washington learns to respect the Constitution, including the 10th Amendment. We will return responsibility and authority to the states for dozens of government programs. From my first day in the office, my number one job will be to see that America once again is number one in job creation. If you want to create a job, it helps to have had one. I will make business taxes competitive with other nations, modernize regulations and bureaucracy, and finally promote America's trade interests. It's time for a president who cares more about American workers than he does about American union bosses. Over the last 30 years, I can't tell you how many times I've heard a situation is hopeless. But I've never been very good at listening to those people, and I've always enjoyed proving them wrong. It's one of those lessons I learned from my dad. My father grew up in Baltimore. He was told by counselors and teachers that he would never amount to anything, but be a trash man or end up in prison. But he prevailed and went to college, ended up in the Army, and now works at the Pentagon. There were a lot of reasons my father could have given up or set his sights lower, but my dad always believed in America and how you can work your way up. For my dad, America was the land of opportunity, where the circumstances of birth are no barrier to achieving one's dream. Small businesses and entrepreneurs were encouraged and respected, and a good worker could almost find a good job. The spirit of enterprise, innovation, pioneering, and can-do propelled our standard of living and economy past every other nation on earth. I refuse to believe that America is just another place on the map with a flag. We stand for freedom and opportunity and hope. We are one. These past years have not been the best of times, but while we've lost a couple years, we have not lost our way. The principles that made us a great nation and a leader of the world have not lost their meaning. They never will. We know we can bring this country back. I am Rana Riddick, and I am running for President of the United States.